Welcome back guys, hope you're all doing great. Well, in this video I'm going to show you how to build your own online e-ticket booking system, whether it can be your online ticket, bus ticket booking or train seats booking, or even your ticket cinema tickets booking or dining table, something like that, whatever it is, whatever the online e-booking system. So I'm gonna give you an example and understand how those online select e-booking system is it working, how the people are selecting the seats before booking the seats in the online. So in order to resemble that, we have an SVG layouts over here, which is showing the booked and the available seats. So the user can select between the multiple seats. So it shows you the information about the selected seats and how many seats are available and how many seats it's been booked. And you can select the multiple seats by holding your alt or control key or command keys, hold it together and click it. You can select the multiple seats. So I give you an complete and brief explanations how the peoples are working with these SVGs and how the displaying the those layouts in the UI inside, and how they are um, creating a realistic UI. So basically this is just an SVG. We just created that SVG over here. See, this is the layout, but in a real case scenarios, they will create a real e-booking ticket system, something like the cinematic layout, like the cinemas layout. For instance, let's say if I want something like um let's say layout for restaurant, something like that. Let's say this is the layout of the restaurant. So basically they will create the complete structure of the for the dining management system. They will create this complete structure in the SVG and they will load it over here, so the user can select which table they want to choose, right? So that's the thing. We're gonna build this completely from the ground, and I'm gonna show you how to load those things into the Next.js and save those details into the Prisma by managing all these tables in the hand over here. Let me show you. Wait, see how to manage those tables and how to create and edit form, and how to view those data directly and update it instantly. See, just like that. For instance, let's say let me change this status into booked and save these changes. It is going to change the status. Now two tables have been booked, and if I get back to the home page, you should able to see the two seats are now booked. Only available seats are 16. So if you user selected it, they can see the information about the selected table. So this is just the concept overview. So you can implement this particular concept in your own website where you are planning to create an online e-booking system, something like that, right? So I hope you guys are so hyped, and without wasting your time further ado, we can get started. And all this code is completely free. You can access them in our GitHub. Click the link in the description below. You can access them for free. All right. So if you're watching our channel for very first time, please click the like and subscribe button, and that will encourage us to come up with a more project. And anyway, we are going to build a full stack project based on this particular concept: online e-ticket booking systems. It's going to be a cinema tickets booking system, or it's going to be a dining management system, something like that. We're going to come up with that project, and we're going to launch that project as soon as possible. So let's get started. Nice. So all you have to do is to go ahead and create yourself a Next.js project by along with the ShadCN. So if you open up the ui.shadcn.com, click the installation, and you can see this button like open ShadCN create. Then you can customize all your theme settings, colors and fonts and everything. And once you click this create project, you should be able to see certain options. What is the project that your template you're going to use, and what is the UI base, and for you, are you going to use the pointer icon for your buttons, and copy this line and paste it, create your project. Okay, so this is what I did, and currently this is the place where we are, and I recustomized the page.tsx file, and this is the home page which we do have. Now all we have to do is to go ahead and initialize the Prisma and connect our database to it. So let's go ahead and do that. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop it, and then I'm just going to say pnpm add Prisma and at Prisma slash client. Hit it, and oops, my bad, spelling mistake, not Primsa, It's Prisma. Spelling mistake, my bad. Hit the add. It is going to download and add that package. All right, so it is being added. Okay, so now it's successfully added. Now all I have to do is to pnpm Prisma init. Hit the enter. It is going to initialize the Prisma, and you should be able to see the Prisma folder over there, and we have the Prisma config.ts file. Okay, so inside the Prisma, where you can see the schema.prisma over here, and you can configure the database URLs and all those things. And in this case, I'm not going to change anything else. Okay, so I'm not going to do anything else inside the schema.prisma. Output is going to be this. Provider, we are going to keep the PostgreSQL as its. Okay, and this is the database URL. So let's get into the Neon DB. Search for Neon DB. Click this and create yourself an account over there. In this case, I'm going to use my Google account itself. All right, so let's create ourselves a new project, and I'm going to name this project as the booking system. Okay, I'm not going to enable the authentications and all those stuffs, and then just create. Okay, so now we are here, and what I'm going to do is here, let me make it a little bit bigger. So here, click the connection string. You should be able to see what is the database that you are going to use and whether it is active or not. Choose the connection string and change it into Prisma. This is the connection string right now, right? And if you click the env, this is our key. So let me copy this and let me bring it up. Let me replace this particular line just by using that. Save it. Okay, so now we have that. Now all we have to do is to create the schema. Inside the schema, we have to create the model, right? So let's go ahead and create that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two different not two different, we just needed tables. So let's go ahead and create the model table, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say model table, open it. Inside this model table, I'm going to say id, which is going to be string itself. Then it needs to be generated automatically. Okay, instead of uuid, I'm just going to use the cuid, and this is going to be a string. All right, then I'm going to bring the table id, which in case it's going to be string, and it needs to be unique. Okay, so basically the table id, it's not nothing but your seat id, like the bus seats numbers, something like that. Or if you are going to keep it as the like the SEMA seats number, something like that, right? So it's based on the project what you are building to do. So I'm just going to keep it as a common, as a table. So you just try to map it with your respective project names. Okay, and then I'm just going to say name string. For that particular table or a seat, we need to give a name. Then status of it, whether it is booked or not. So we have to create the status, right? So for that, I'm going to create myself in booking status. Open it. I'm just going to make sure this is available or it is booked. These two, this is the a variable that we are creating for that. So here I'm just going to keep it as the booking status. For the booking status, I'm going to assign a default variable, so default, which is going to be available. Okay, then so if it is a restaurant table, for that particular table, how many persons can sit? Or if it is like what is that, if it is the cinema ticket booking system, then you can keep it as the one for a single seat, you can allocate a single person, right? Or unless if it is going to be special seats like couple seats or something like that. And for bus tickets, of course, we're gonna have single seater or sleeper, something like that, right? So based on that, you have to decide it. anyways it's going to be a single seat only, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure the capacity which is going to be capacity, and that is going to be in this case let me keep it as a single string itself, or you can go with the number 1 2 3 something like that. Okay, then I'm just going to keep it as the created at and date time at field. And okay, so next I need to make sure based on the indexes, based on the status we used to search, right? We used to filter it, so I'm gonna use the status over here, save it. This is all about right now. Maybe in the future you might working on the reservation system, something like that, but in this case I'm just going to work on, I'm gonna explain you how to work with that particular concept alone, right? Like how really the booking systems are working. So here pnpm prisma generate, then pm prisma db push. So it is going to push that particular model over here. So let's wait. All right, then now our database is currently synced with our model. So let's go ahead and click the tables over here, and you should able to see here, this is the table and with all the respective fields which we created, which is working as it's supposed to be, right? So we successfully created all those things. So now all we have to do is to we have to go ahead and basically design the structure, how that the UI that you are going to provide for the user, right? So basically we are going to get into the Figma. Okay, so okay, so open up your Figma project and create yourself an empty project. And in this case, inside the empty frame, we have a rectangle shape, just a rectangle shape. So resembling something like the bus sleeper seat. And just like that, we're going to create one more, and I'm going to duplicate that one. And for that, and here, I'm going to make sure this as the perfect square. Okay, let's make this as the perfect square, 200. Oops, 200 into 200, like a perfect square. Okay, so basically this is for what, for the seating, bus seatings. Okay, so we have to create ourselves 4 perfect squares and put it up over here. Okay, and make sure these sleeper seats are occupying the complete length. Okay, so make sure, yes, now we have to get one more. Okay, this is for, okay, something like this. All right, and all you have to do is to rename this as the proper, and assume this is your ID, this is the name is going to be your ID. So I'm just going to make sure here, give a name as let's say this is the lower berth, because of course you're gonna have the upper berth for your lower deck and upper deck for your um like what, for your in the bus, right? So for that, in this case I'm just going to say keep it as a lower sleeping seat, right? SP SLP, this is going to be 01. Let me copy this, and for this I'm gonna name that as 02. Make sure all of them are unique ID names, so don't make any mistakes over there. So just like that, you have to create the rest of the stuff, just a resemblance. Okay, so I'm gonna create that, and you guys pause the video and go ahead and create that. All right, then, so now we have that seat resemblance over here. Okay, since we are using the light theme, so please make sure these color you can see it visibly over there. So I'm just going to change the color. Okay, this is the one. So now all we have to do is to select this frame, because that's the frame that we needed. So that's the frame which I have created, and please make sure I grouped it on the lower sleeping seats and the seater seats, and then I just give a proper name for each and every seats over there. okay, because these are the ID names that it's going to be. So I'm just going to select the frame and export that frame. Basically, I'm going to export that frame in the SVG, and then click the additional settings, and then you should include the ID attribute. Don't forget to include this ID attribute. Okay, the at the bottom right corner you can see this. When you're exporting it into SVG, click this three horizontal dots lines, and then change this into select this, check this include ID attribute, and then export lower frame. Okay, so now we have that lower frame. And now let me get back to our screen, and inside this public folder, I'm gonna create myself a new folder called assets, and inside the assets I'm gonna bring that asset and put it up over here. Okay, so now we have that asset over here, and if you convert it into code, you should be able to see all the shapes, right, along with this ID attribute. Basically, we're going to use this particular ID as the table ID. Where it is, we have the table ID, right? In the Prisma schema, we have this table ID, right? So we're gonna map that particular table ID into your Prisma table ID by the time when we are creating a new seats, because we have to create a new seats inside the table. So we need a form in order to create that by giving the name and the capacities and the status and all those things. Okay, so and that's what we have to going to do. And before moving into it, all we have to do is to make sure bring this shape and display it over there, and along with that we need to bring a form in order to do that as well as. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the form, then I'm going to show you how to display the SVG. And when you click that SVG, based on the table informations, how we can show whether that particular seat is available or it is being booked or something like that. Okay, and that's what we are going to do next. All right, then, so now let's start our application. So let's say npm run dev, and let me close all the stuffs and let me refresh it. It is going to bring our home page. This is the place where we are going to display that SVGs, and once the user clicked, we're going to display the informations and all those information which is related to that seat on the right hand side. Okay, so and before moving into that, I'm going to create myself a new folder over here called the tables. Okay, like the place where we are going to keep a form in order to maintain the complete available seats and all those informations over there. So I'm going to create myself a new page.tsx over here. Okay, so that is going to be, and instead of creating it over there, I'm going to create myself one more dynamic folder with table ID. So basically what we are going to do is we're going to keep the list of tables, and once the user clicks that, we're going to bring that table information on the right hand form as well as. Basically we're going to keep the add and edit form and the list of tables both in the same page itself. That's what we are trying to do here. I'm just going to create myself the page.tsx. Okay, and inside this page.tsx, this is the place where we are going to create all those stuffs and everything. So let's create ourselves a server side component over here, which is going to be manage tables, something like that, and that is going to be an asynchronous table. This is going to be asynchronous function, and inside this I'm gonna create myself, I'm gonna access the parameters. So bring the params, which is going to be the table ID, right? So I'm gonna make sure that's a promise, and from the promise we're going to extract the object which is going to be the table ID, and that is going to be the string. And please make sure this table ID matches that exact table ID what we are using over here, that by that way you can access the table ID information over there. Okay, so I'm going to extract that table ID, and here for the time being I'm going to make sure this is the section. This is just going to be a section class name. Come on, class name. Width needs to be full, flex needs to be 1. Okay, and now we have that table ID and all those things, and here I'm going to access the table ID const table ID await params, and then I'm just going to display the table ID over here, table ID. let's say table ID. Basically, if we do have the table ID, then we will display that table ID, or else we just going to simply display the table ID as the not found one. Okay, so let me jump into the tables. It is going to, what's the folder name? What's the file name which I created? Tables. Okay, so tables. Okay, so here we are, tables. Okay, so now I just have to get into the page.tsx, and here I'm just going to see, make sure this class name flex as one, and then flex column, everything needs to be on the starting point. And here I'm gonna make sure have an header section, header, and here I'm going to bring myself a button from where add components UI button, and here I'm going to make sure this as manage tables, something like this. And this button needs to take the user to that very specific location, right? So this is going to be wrapped inside the link from next link, and inside the href hyper reference sections, I'm going to make sure the user to take the user to that specific location slash tables, and we need to supply the parameter, right? By default, manage table means where we are going to display all the information. So the default the ID which I'm simply supplying is all. We know that this all is not going to be in the database, and if this not found, we simply going to keep the form as empty as the create form. If we do figure it out and find out the ID details about that table, then we're going to fetch that information and display it in the form as the edit form, right? So here I'm going to keep it as the button manage tables. And if you get back to your local host, you should be able to see this. So for this header, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure, class name, width needs to be full, padding needs to be 5, and then flex item center and justify everything needs to be in the end. Save it. You should be able to see the manage tables over there. Now if the user click this, it is going to take the user to the tables all, right? So we have this table ID all, right? So we have now, right now we are inside this particular page, which is working as we expected, as it's supposed to be, right? Then now what I need to do is inside here, since it is going to fetch the table from the database, so we need to handle it properly by using a fallback UI and having the suspense fallbacks and all those things, right? So in order to do that, I'm gonna make sure to handle this section. This is the particular section where it is going to be loaded with the suspense loading and all those things. So I'm going to bring the suspense from React. Then inside the suspense, we need to make sure this is the table page. This is the wrapper class where we are going to fetch the table informations. So for that, I need to supply the table ID. So let's supply the table ID. And for this, I need to have a fallback UI, fallback. Instead of simply using this in the ShadCN, you should be able to see a component called spinner. So basically, you can use the spinner component. So if you open this spinner component from UI, so it's using this loader icon. Instead of this loader icon, I'm going to make sure to bring loader. What is this icon symbol? Yeah, this is the loader that I'm going to use, loader. Save it. And here inside the fallback UI, select this, create an empty div, and make sure this as a class name. I don't know why it is messing up the Visual Studio Code. So which is width needs to be screen, height needs to be screen, flex item center, justify center, everything needs to be in the center. Then I'm going to bring that spinner component from add components UI slash spinner, save it, nothing else. Okay, this is going to be your fallback UI, and this is the wrapper class. So sorry, the wrapper component. So let's go ahead and create that wrapper component right above here on this particular page. I'm just going to say const table page wrapper, which is going to be an asynchronous component, and that component is going to have the table id as the property, which is going to be table id, and in our case table id, which is going to be the type of string. So that's highly that's really important. Copy this and make sure the component name is same. Then of course it is going to return a div. Okay, so now it will not throws us any issues or anything over here. For the time being, I'm just going to simply save this, and if you refresh this, you will see the same thing, because we don't have anything to load, so the fallback UI will not be there because it's instantly displaying the data and everything. Okay, so now we have that information. Perfect. Next, what I need to do is I need to display the all the tables in the left hand side, and I need to display the form on the right hand side. Based on that, for that I need to create the UI. Then later we can come back and write the code to fetch the details and display all those informations and everything. So for this, I'm just going to say class name, and width, of course, it's going to be full. Flex needs to be 1, and it's going to use the grid system. Grid column, it's going to be 1, but from the medium devices onwards, grid column, it's going to be I'm going to make sure this is going to take the 12 columns, because I can customize this as much as I want. So padding 4, and the gap is going to be 2. Okay, and inside over here, instead of simply displaying this information, I'm going to close that. I'm going to bring a division div. Why is that not showing the suggestions? Okay, div class name. These suggestions are literally killing me. Auto suggestions, class names, and then this is going to take the column span of 12 on the mobile devices, but on the medium devices I'm going to make sure the column span of 8 on the medium devices. And here I'm going to bring the client tables, list of tables, which is nothing but your list of tables. That's it. That's what we are going to bring it up over here. Then next, what I need to do is I need to bring one more division here. This is the place where we are going to bring class name, and of course it is going to be column span 12, but on the medium devices it's going to be column span of 4, because the remaining 4 columns are there. We need to occupy that. And here we are going to bring the table add and edit form over here. Okay, this is what basically we are trying to do. Now let's go ahead and create ourselves the tan stack data table, because that is what we are trying to do. So let's get back over here, data table. This is the table that we are trying to display, and the informations that we are trying to get back and display it over here. Okay, so if you search for data table, you should be able to see this. And if you scroll all the way to the down, you should be able to see what are the components that you need to add, and what are the external packages that you need to set up, and what are the prerequisite that you need to folder structures that you need to follow, and all those informations, right? So let's go ahead and do that. In this case, I'm going to add this. I'm going to stop the server, clear, paste it, add the table. Then I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this here. Okay, then I'm just going to make sure npm run dev, close this. So now we have that. Okay, so next what I need to do is we need to create all these necessary components, structures, like the columns.tsx, page.tsx, and all those stuffs. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna create myself this file, columns.tsx. So let's go ahead and create that. Okay, so first what we have to do is we have to create ourselves a component. So I'm going to create myself a new folder inside this particular folder called underscore components, the components which is only related to this particular page. Okay, so we can keep it in that way. Make sure that to put an underscore before it, otherwise it will consider as a route. We don't want that, right? Inside here I'm going to make sure bring the client.tsx and mark this as the client component, use client. Okay, and inside the client what we are going to do, rafc, bring the react export functional component. Okay, we have that. Then for this I'm going to create myself an interface client props, open it. So basically it's expecting the tables, which is going to be the type of the tables which we do have from the ad generated Prisma client itself. Make sure that is coming from ad generated Prisma client. Okay, and make sure that's a type of an array, right? So then we need to bring that. I'm going to extract the tables from where? From the client props. Okay, this is what we needed. This is the place where we are going to display that the data tables and all those stuffs. Now we have the client table. So next what we need to do, we need to go ahead and create this column.tsx. So inside this components folder, I'm going to create myself a new file called components.tsx. So basically this is the columns which is going to define what are the columns that we are going to keep inside the data table, right? So here they're given you some example, like you need to create a column definition from this, and you need to have yourself the type of the column types. What are the columns that you're going to keep inside that, right? So let's go ahead based on our data in our schema. So let's open up our schema. So we have this. What are the things we need to do? We need to display the table ID, then we need to display the table name, then we need to display the capacity, and we need to display the status, whether it is booked or not. These are the informations that I need to display in our table. So this is the structure, but we need to rechange this structure by using this particular table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply copy this, and I'm going to open up the ChatGPT, paste that code, and copy this, and I'm going to ask the ChatGPT to generate the columns for my data table using my own schema model table. So use the necessary fields and make sure the UI looks materialistic and to support both light and dark mode using ShadCN components. Okay, hit the enter. So that is going to generate yourself the columns.tsx and the necessary fields that you are willing to put into it. Okay, and anyways, we're gonna make some customizations in this, because you can see the status is always not going to be available, booked, reserved, occupied, not like something like that. Either it is available or it is booked. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this, and I'm gonna get into the column.tsx, then I'm gonna paste it. But when you're doing it, please make sure that you are having the table, the property names, or matching your schema. So in this case, I'm going to close this. That's not necessary. Capacity, and I don't need this created as well as it's not necessary for in our case. Okay, so I'm simply going to delete this. It's not necessary. Okay, then in the actions, asking us drop down. What is this? ID actions, it's not necessary in our case. I'm simply going to delete it because I don't need any actions at all. Then I don't need the last column as well as, simply I'm going to delete this. Okay, so this is the thing. This is the columns that we want to display, and I'm going to remove the unwanted import statements. So currently anything, it doesn't make any sense, but when you display the visual, when you see the visuals, you can understand that. Then we need to create this data table. So I'm going to copy this, then inside the UI component where it is components UI, here I'm going to create myself a new data table.tsx file, data table. So not that, you need to simply copy this, then you need to paste this stuff. Okay, then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, so you should be able to see how to render the table columns, and you need to supply your data. In this case, what we need to do is I'm going to copy this, and inside the columns, so what is the columns? Okay, then this is the columns name, or you can simply rename the name as you wish. In this case, get into the client. Inside the client, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the data table, and I'm going to paste it up. Let me bring the data table from the columns, and then I need to supply the columns, which is going to be the columns. Then I need to bring the data, in our case, which is going to be an empty array. For the time being, I'm going to keep it as an empty array. Later we will customize this. So if you get back over here and then pnp, oh, it's already running. So if you refresh this, client, am I displaying the client? No, I need to display the client over here. Client, client, client. What is the name from the client.tsx? Oops, it needs to be C capital letter, my bad. So now it will be imported from there. Then I need to supply the tables, which is going to be an empty array for the time being. So you should be able to see the table, right? Table ID, table name, status, capacity. So we can see it is displaying that informations right now, which is that exactly what we indeed needed, right? So now all we have to do is to it's to go ahead and design a form in order to store the informations into the table so that we can fetch it back and display it over here, right? So let's go ahead and create that now. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create myself a new component over here, which is going to be table add edit form .tsx. Okay, inside here array fce, and that is going to be table, oops, make sure that's the client component, use client, and here this is going to be array fc, that is going to be table add edit form. Save it. All right, so now all we have to do is to go ahead and create ourselves a new form in order to add or edit the table informations. All right, people. So since we created the data table, now all we have to do is to go ahead and create ourselves the add or edit form. Okay, so what I need to do is, so this add or edit form, basically it's going to need the information about the table, what particular table it is going to be. So here I'm going to bring that table add edit form. Then it is going to need the prop, which is going to be the table itself. Okay, which we don't have that. For that point, currently I'm going to keep this null itself over here for the time being. So let me get into here, and here it is going to need the property, right? So for that, I'm gonna define the interface, which is going to be table add edit form props. Open it. I'm going to define the table, which is going to be the type of table at generated Prisma client, or it is going to carry on the null value. So save it. So this is going to fix okay, so this needs to be get the extracted information from the table add props. Save it, and here also save it. So now we should be able to see the table add edit form over there, which is that's what we needed, right? So then I need to extract the parameter, what parameter that is it's carrying on. Well, that is the table ID. Based on the table ID only we are going to display that informations, right? So I need to extract the parameter. So from const params is equals to use params. From that I'm gonna extract the params. Then I'm gonna get the const router is equals to use router from next navigation. Make sure both of them are coming from next navigation. Okay, then I need the title, the descriptions, and the toast message and all those things. So for that I'm just going to generate this content and I'm going to put it up over here. Like for the table, whether if the user is in the edit table informations or creating a new table or description, update the tables and provide the necessary details. And this is the toast message. If you want, you can keep it all those necessary informations over there. Okay, but in this case I'm not going to do any alert notifications or something, so I don't need that. So I'm just going to keep it simply as it is. Okay, this is the actions and all those things, which is perfect. Now I need to define the form. In order to work with this form, we are going to use this simply search for form, and we're going to work with the React hook form. That's the form that we are going to work with. So if you scroll all the way to the down side, you can see it's give you all the validations and the necessary informations that you needed. Okay, how to work with the forms and fields and everything. So basically you need to use the field component in order to work with the validations of your ZOD and error handlings and everything, because it's using the React form and the ZOD. Okay, so this is the thing. These are the packages that they are using. See how they are working with the fields, how they define the form, and how they worked with the form by mapping the field groups and using the controllers and everything. Okay, and exactly that what we are going to define it over here, and that's exactly what we are going to use as well as. All right, so let's go ahead and start working on that. Okay, because it's quite not comfortable when you're working for very first time in order to follow all these much of steps, but you have to work with. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself a form. First we need to define the form schemas and all those things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maintain that in a separate folder. So let me keep it as a form. Inside the form I'm going to create myself a new file called index.ts. Here I'm going to define, so let me import the package from the Zod. Okay, so from the Zod we need to import that package. So for that I need to import the Zod and as all those necessary stuffs and everything. Okay, so it's showing us the error, so let's import that first. pnpm add Zod, hit the enter. Okay, so that is going to add that in a specific package, so it will be resolved. Then we need to add this at hook resolvers as well as pnpm add at hook resolvers. Then we need to add this react hook form, hit the enter, which is perfectly added. Clear, pnpm run dev, close this. Okay, so now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure to import that Zod from Z. Okay, then export const table schema, which is z dot object. So what are the fields, that is compulsory fields that we need to collect from the user? First information, which is going to be the table ID. Please make sure open up your schema and work along with your schema. So let me close this columns, not necessary, table dot. Okay, now let me get back over here, get the table ID, make sure the name they are both are same in order to avoid it, and I'm gonna keep it as the z dot string. Okay, then right after that, what is the information that we need to bring? And we need to bring the name. Here I'm just going to keep the name z dot string. Then right after here we need to get the status and make sure that status as well as properly validated status, which is going to be z dot string itself, string. Okay, status, it's going to be optional because we have the default value for it, right? So it can be optional value. Then we can able to switch into the capacity, which is going to be z dot string itself, which is not going to be an optional value. Then export type table form values into the z dot infer type of your table schema. This is the that form type, and this is the form schema. So we need to export the form type and as well as the form schema as well as this is the form schema which is necessary. Close this. Now we have that. So here next what I need to do is, so we need to create this particular section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this card and the fields and everything. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it straight away over here. And of course we're going to use the input as well as, so I'm going to bring that input as well as. Okay, so okay, let's remove this. For the input we can worry about it later. And okay, for the time being it's okay. Now we created this form schema. Okay, so we need to structure this. That's what we have to do now. So let's right after here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself const form which equals to use form. Okay, so use form which needs to be collected from where, from React hook form, right? So let's go ahead and import it from there. So import from React hook form. From there I'm going to extract the use form. Okay, use form, make sure that is being coming from use form, open it, and inside this use form we need to specify the type of this use form, right? For that I'm going to specify the type, which is going to be table form values. That's the type of that form which is going to return the an object. It's need to specify the resolver, which is going to be the zod resolver. um Resolver, yeah, it's not showing the suggestions. Okay, so I'm going to import the Zod resolver from @hooks resolver Zod. Let's bring that resolver, and I need to supply the table form schema into that. That's the schema that we need to supply into it. Okay, then we need to simply supply the default values. So basically the default value, which is going to be your table, that's the default value. If I do have the table, then I need to display the table informations, or else I need to display the empty object. See, these are the necessary informations that I need to display. If I do have the table, display the table ID from the data which we fetched from the database, all these informations, or else use this as the default informations. Okay, so basically this particular error, this is the type error, it's just because of your schema package, this package.json, the hook resolvers, and the Zod, the type, that particular type, it's been mismatching. That's the reason. Okay, so we need to fix that. The React hook form and all those things, the type mismatch, it's over there. So in order to do that, I'm just going to be clear it, and pnpm remove, let's remove that. React hook form, where it is, here it is. Copy it, and let's remove the Zod, and let's remove at latest as well as this. Remove. Okay, so let's clear it. Then instead of remove, let's add all these things. Add, I'm gonna add the latest one, at latest one, and here also at latest. Hit the enter. So this is going to download all the latest package of those things. Clear it. Then I'm gonna delete this cache, delete. Then I'm going to pnpm run and dev, and let me refresh this. So this should fix that issue. Let me reload it. If still that issue is been persisting, you should uninstall your node modules and reinstall entire thing. This might happens. Delete the node modules and stop this, and delete your cache, delete, and delete this, and clear everything. pnpm install all the necessary packages. Okay, and now let me reload the window. This will be fix that issue. Yep, now we don't see the type error anymore. Okay, I don't know why it's happening, but when you're using the the Zod and React hook forms and everything, I used to have this issue every time whenever I work with this particular form. So this is what I do. I install the latest version and then I delete the node modules and then package.yaml file and the cache files. Then I reinstall the entire package stuff. Then I reload the Visual Studio Code. Then that issue will be gone. Okay, so that's simple how it is. Okay, so now we finish the loading the table data, or we are keeping the default data. Okay, so then I need to get the form state. From the form state, whether the form has been submitting or not, then I'm gonna have the on submit event, which is going to be form.handle submit. From the handle submit function, handle submit, if I'm going to have an asynchronous function, asynchronous callback function inside this function, which is going to be data, and that is going to be the type, this particular type, schema type, table type, where it is, table form values. Yeah, that's the type. Okay, and here I'm just going to say console.log data, save it. This is the place where we need to do the API actions and everything in order to save the informations. Okay, let's, for the time being, let's keep it in that particular way. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself the form in order to save the informations. So we have this card and we have this field group, and I'm going to bring this input group as well as, so I'm going to copy this, copy, and I'm going to put it up straight away right above here, input group. Okay, so from the input group, we need to import one more stuff, which is going to be this one. This is the package, group input, not a normal input, group input. So if you open the ShadCN and if you search for input, you can see the input group. And the reason why we are having this input group is because you can have this icon, or you can have the loading sections, as well as if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you should be able to see we having the different icons, actions, right? So basically when you hit the save, so you can simply display something like saving, so showing the progress some along with that particular field itself. For that purpose we are using that one. Okay, so I don't need this anymore. Let me get back over here. So we have that, and we have this. Okay, now we need to display the card and the cards and stuffs and everything. So let me get back into here, scroll all the way to that bottom. So here I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to bring the card. Okay, card. For the card, I'm going to have the class name, which is going to have the padding as 4. Okay, padding is 4. Then of course it's need to have the gap as 2, then rounded needs to be medium. Then I don't need the border, so border is going to be none. Then I need to have the shadow as the medium itself, medium. Okay, then shadow color, it's going to be neutral color. So if you want to change the colors as well as, you can change that. This is what I need. Okay, and I don't need the outline as well as, outline it's going to be none. Okay, fine. Then inside here I'm going to bring the card title and the description. So let's go ahead and bring the card title and the descriptions over here. Okay, bring the separator from the add components UI. This is how it is going to display. Okay, then right after here, next what we need to do is I need to bring the form, which is going to be something like this. Form, create the form. So I'm going to create myself form, and for that form I'm going to create myself an ID. My ID is equals to table form for schema. Give a proper ID. Then on submit, for this on submit event, I'm going to map our on submit event, which we created over here. That's the on submit event which you need to do. Then right after here, I'm going to create myself a field group. field group. Make sure you have that field group. Inside the field group, I'm going to bring the controller. Okay, this controller is going to be a self closing tag, nothing else. Controller is going to be a self closing tag. For the controller, you need to supply the control, what control that you're providing. We are providing the form dot control. Then you need to provide the name. What is the name of that particular field? That is going to be the table ID. Then you need to render what are you willing to render in it. And here I'm going to extract. It's going to render a component, here a value, and here I'm going to extract certain properties, parameters. So field, that's a field. Then I'm going to extract the field state, these two. Okay, inside over here we need to bring the respective what is that, the field, right? So I'm going to bring the field. Then if it is invalid, data invalid, data invalid, if it is invalid, then here I'm just going to bring the field state dot invalid field, right? Then right after here you need to bring the field label. I'm going to bring the field label. For that field label, I'm just going to say table ID, unique table ID, something like that, right? Then for this next, what we need to do is we need to bring that input group, right? So let me bring the input group, open the input group, and inside this input group I'm gonna bring that the text, input text. So input group input, this is the one that we are planning to do. Okay, for this input group input, what are the fields that you need to type? So by default, the type which is going to be text. Then you need to supply all the field properties along with this. Then along with that, I need to disable it. When I need to disable it, if it is still submitting. If it is still submitting, I need to disable it. Okay, so these are the necessary informations that you need to supply. And sometimes it might cause you an issue, so I need to extract the value separately. If I do have the field dot value displayed, or else keep the empty value, field dot value, or else keep the empty value. Because sometimes it will throw some unnecessary issue. In order to avoid that, this is the proper way to avoid that unnecessary issues and all those things. Okay, then what I need to do is I need to display the add-on group, right? So for that, in order to display that, I'm going to make sure if it is submitting, if the value is submitting, then only I need to display that particular add-on group section. Input group add-on, display this add-on group section. And this needs to be aligned. Where it needs to align? It needs to be aligned in the end. Then here I need to bring the input group text, which is going to be saving something like this. Then right after here I need to bring the spinner from add component spinner, something like that. Okay, so now we have that form input group and everything, it's been completed. Then along with that, if there is any errors or anything else, you want to display the errors as well as. So right after this input group, I need to display the errors as well as. And yeah, field is completely done. Now let's save this information, so you should be able to see the table ID over there. Okay, so just like the same way, we need to bring for name, then we need to bring for capacity, then we need to bring for status and all those things. Okay, so but for each of the things we need to have some what is that, like the icon. So for that I'm gonna bring an icon before over here. So for this I'm gonna make sure that is from ask lucid react hash, something like this. Let me keep this neutral or al neutral, something like that. Okay, perfect. Now all I have to do is to go ahead and do the rest of the stuffs for the name as well as. So I'm going to copy this controller, and I'm gonna paste this. Instead of this time table ID, I'm gonna change this table. Instead of ID, I'm gonna make sure to bring the name. Instead of hash, I'm going to bring the icon as the type icon. And yeah, that's pretty much done. This is what we need. Then right after here, I'm gonna copy this and I'm going to paste it one more time. This time it is going to be the capacity, and here also it is going to be capacity. And for the icon, we're gonna use the icon as battery full icon, something like this. Okay, that's the capacity that we are going to use for that. Okay, then right after here we need to bring the status. So I'm going to bring the status as well as. This time this is going to be what, status, and this is also going to be status, but we're going to make some customized changes over here. I don't need this stuff, input group, something like this, delete this. But for the input group, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure this as having this field data disabled, field data disabled. Then right after here, I need to bring the what's that, we need to bring that the select option. So let me search for what, select. This is the one. So I'm going to import this select, import these packages, import select, copy it. Let me import those. Right after here, text area not necessary. Later we can remove the unnecessary import statements. Okay, status right after here. So here we need to display the necessary things like select trigger, select items, and all those things. Okay, so here what we are going to do is I'm going to bring the select, and for the select on value change, whenever there is a change, I need to extract the field on change function, call that. Then for the value, what is the value that you are going to use? We are going to use the field dot value. Then for disabled, when it needs to be disabled, it needs to be disabled whenever the form is being submitting. Save it. Then inside the select, we need to bring the trigger button, so which is going to be select trigger button. For the select trigger button, I'm going to make sure the class name, which is going to be using the complete full width. Then here I'm going to bring the select value placeholder, which is going to be select the status. Okay, then right after the trigger, we need to bring the select content. Inside the select content, we need to display the select item. Select item. The value of the select item needs to be available, and it is going to be booked. Make sure that name which is matched along with your schema value, the value which we are trying to available and booked, that needs to be mapped properly. Okay, so now if you save these changes, you should be able to see these two options, available and selected, right? Next, what we need to do is we need to bring a button. In order to bring that, right after this field, inside the field group, or you can keep it outside the form itself. So you can see you can where is the reset button, where it is, description is there. Okay, so this is the card footer. Okay, they close the form, and they do have this over here, see, something like this. Okay, so what I need to do is I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. Form is being finished up over here. Then here I'm just going to create myself a div, class name. which is going to be width as full, flex, item center, and justify everything needs to be in the end. Then right after over here, I'm gonna bring myself the field, and for this I'm just going to say orientation. What is the orientation that you're going to use? Orientation which is going to be the horizontal orientation. If you want to keep the form reset as well, as you can bring the reset button, or if you want to display the submit button also, you can display the submit. In this case, I'm just going to bring this, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it up over here. Let's bring this button from add components UI, and the variant is going to be outlined. And when you reset it, it's going to simply reset the form. And but on the submit, and here I'm going to make some customizations over here. For this submit button, what I'm going to do is this button, both of these buttons needs to be disabled. It needs to be disabled. When it needs to be disabled, it needs to disable if it is submitting the data. If it is submitting the data. And inside over here, I'm just going to say if is submitting, then at this point what I need to do is I need to display the button something like wait a minute, I can simply search for button group over here. Okay, so if you scroll all the way to down, you can see that we do have some kind of loading stuffs as well as okay, it's not there. Separator, size, spinner. Okay, we are not having that examples. Then I think where it is. Let's figure it out somewhere. I have seen it. Yeah, this is the one. Button. This is the one. Let me check it out. We need this loading. This is the button. We needed it. Copy it. And let me get back over there. Okay. So wait a minute, let me paste it and we can customize this. Disable when it needs to be disabled, whenever it is been having this size. Let's keep the size, let's remove the size. I don't need to worry about the size, and but I need these two informations. Okay, make sure to supply your form ID over here. Okay, make sure to supply your form ID, copy this form ID and supply it to your form over here. And then for this, I'm just going to make sure this is the spinner, and instead of loading, I'm just going to say saving. These two informations needs to be displayed only if it is form is been submitting. If it is form is been submitting, then display this. Okay, it's going to show us the error. Otherwise, simply display the save changes, or you can keep it as the actions. This is not necessary now. Save it. So basically what we are doing over here, if the form is submitting, we're going to display the message as simply the information as saving, something like it. Otherwise, we are simply going to display the action over here, whatever the action that we want to display, create new or some reset, something like that. Okay. And okay, so I think the field is taking the complete width over there. That's the reason. So I'm gonna delete this field. It's not necessary for me. Delete it. Now it has been fine. Then I'm gonna make sure my6 gap needs to be 4. Save it. my6, it's not necessary, I think so. My, it's going to be 2.5. That would be perfectly fine. Save it. All right, so now we have this, which is perfectly as we needed it. Now all we have to do is to make sure whether to collect the informations and display whether all the information is it's collected and it is being displayed or not. So if you simply create new, it is simply saying the default values, one name available on it, simply displaying all those necessary values and everything, right? Because we haven't written any specific conditions for your form schema in your form index.txt. if you return any specific conditions over here, it is going to make sure to check those conditions over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some specific conditions. So it needs to have the minimum letter of minimum ID needs to carry on minimum 3 characters, and then so table ID must be at least 3 characters long. Then the name as well as it's going to be at least 2 characters long. Save it. Okay, these are the conditions that I'm going to apply it for. So create new, that is going to give you the error messages with the custom error message, whatever the values that you do have. Okay, if you fill those values with the proper IDs and proper name, it is going to display that informations inside your console. This is the object, and this object needs to be stored in our database. For that, what we need to do, we need to write the API and actions and everything. So let's go ahead and create the API stuffs and everything in order to store these informations into our database, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now all we have to do is to get back to our project, and we have to create the API in order to store the data. So let's get into that. So before that, let me run our application. Okay, so let me restart it. There we go. So we have our application right now in our hand. So all I have to do is to create an API first. So in order to create an API, all I'm going to do is to get into the app folder, and inside the app folder, I'm going to create myself a new new folder called API. Right click, new folder, API. Inside the API, I'm going to create a new folder called tables, and inside the tables, I'm going to create a new file called route.ts. Inside this file, we're going to create the rest of the code in order to save the data, the post method, in order to save that table information, right? So for that, all I'm going to do is to we need to get that Prisma database instance, right? So for that, let's open we have to create that Prisma database instance. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that Prisma database instance. So where is the library file? Inside the library file, I'm going to create myself a new file called db.ts database. Okay, so here I need to import the Prisma client from at generated Prisma client. From there, I'm gonna bring that Prisma client. Then I need to store the Prisma instance in the Node.js as a global object. In order to do that, I need to say global for Prisma is equals to, I'm gonna use this global keyword as unknown type as this Prisma, which is going to carry on this Prisma client instance. Okay, then right after that, we need to reuse the existing Prisma client, or we need to create a new one, right? Only if it does not exist, then only we need to create a new one. We should not create a new instance for every time. So in order to do that, I'm just going to say export const db, which is equals to, from the global for Prisma, I'm going to say dot Prisma. From that, I'm going to access that instance, because in this we have this instance, we need to access that. If it is not there, then I'm going to use this Prisma client, new Prisma client. That's the only way to create a new instance. Okay, so we are getting a type error. Wait a minute, let's close this and let's import it. But why we are getting, okay, let's fix that issue later. So here, then in the development, we need to attach the Prisma to the global object in order to avoid creating the multiple instances on the client side. So in order to do that, if process.env is, if the node environment, if it is not equals to the production environment, if it is not equals to production environment, then we need to use this global, which means we are, if we are in the development instance, I need to use this database instance. Okay, so now let's try to fix this. Quick fix. Let's see what suggestion it's giving us. Mm, 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 mm. I'm not sure why that it is showing the type error. It's saying expected one argument but got zero. We need to supply the options. Okay, so it's expecting the adapter instance and all those things. Mm, mm. Mm, mm, mm. Is there any Prisma client apart from this? Uh, uh, uh. The only Prisma client which we do have, but it's expecting the options like connection strings and all those things. Mm, mm. Okay, so let's use the chat GPT. I'm not sure what's the issue over here. Let's get into the chat GPT. And here, let's apply this. Mm, mm, mm. Let's apply this over here. What's the issue here? Maybe because of the connection string, because that's what it's expecting, but I'm not sure. Let's wait and ask the ChatGPT what is the suggestions it's giving us. The issue is most likely because you're importing the Prisma client from the wrong path. Yes, that's what I thought, but it's not showing us the any other path from here. Uh, but we do have this generated, right? Generated. Um, mm, mm, mm. Let me give the schema. That's the schema. If the output is okay, so it's saying that this is my schema. Let's see what is it giving us, because say here, if you are using this output type, which means the generated prisma or something, then we can import it from add generated prisma. But for in our case, it's saying it's showing as the error. Mm, mm, mm. Okay, so we missed a lot of part over here. So here I'm just going to Prisma client JS. Then we need to supply the URL. We failed to supply the URL as well as env database URL. Add comma. Uh, Why we are getting this error? Okay. Because we do have this prisma config.ts, right? Yes, the one. Let's apply this. We do have the prisma config. Does prisma config correctly provide a database URL, so you do not necessarily add inside .env. Okay, we changed it. This is what we have. Then we have to generate correct. Okay, maybe because of the type issues. So let's say p and pm prisma generate. Let's regenerate it. Prisma schema loaded from prisma.schema.prism generated and failed. Uh, Let's copy this. I'm not sure why this error is, because this is the error that we are facing on the recent Prisma, or maybe that's a configuration issue only. We added this package and we added the Prisma as well as, but your project is missing the required package. What? Clear pnpm add at Prisma slash find, then Prisma. We have these two packages. Yes. Now let me try to delete this generated folder. Then pm Prisma generate. It's saying failed. Command not found. Prisma client JS. Wow. Oops, my bad. Prisma client JS. pnpm Prisma generate. Now it will generate the client. Yes, now we do have that. And inside the db.ts, we don't have that issues anymore. See, this is completely fixed now. Don't worry about this. Okay, so now the issues on our the db.ts, the type issue, it's gone. Now we can run our server. So now we have the database instance. So let's get back into the route.ts over here. So let's import that. Import db, the database, which we do have. Then I need to import the next response and all those things. Import from next server. Server. Here I'm gonna import the next response, then next request. We do have these two packages now. Then I'm just going to say export const post method, which equals to an asynchronous function, arrow function, and inside this function I'm gonna get the request, which is the type of next request. Okay, then we're gonna get the try and catch. If there is any error is going to be happening, so I'm just going to say console dot error, open it. I'm just going to say error on updating table model or something like this, because we need to know from where we are getting that error and what error that we are facing right now. Then here inside I'm gonna get that the body. So let's get that body. Const body is equals to await request dot json. That's the object that we are collecting from the body. Okay, then I'm just going to say const, we are getting the table, the certain specific fields like table id, name, capacities, and all those things. From where? From the body. Okay, here I need to throw an error if I don't have a table id. If I don't have a table id, or if I don't have the capacity, so I'm just going to throw an error, a return new next response, return new request response, next response, which is going to be required fields cannot be empty. Okay, then I need to send the status as well as, which is going to be the status instance, which is going to be the 400. That's the status that we are giving for that particular error. Then now I can simply create a table. So const table, which is equals to await db dot table dot create, open it, and then I'm going to supply the data. What are the data that I need to supply for that data, which is going to be we need to supply the name, then we need to supply the capacity, then we need to supply the status, then we need to supply the table id. These are the necessary informations that you need to supply for the table. Then along with that, I need to return the next response as JSON data, then open it. We're gonna say success, which is going to be true, then data, which is going to be the table which we do have in our hand. Then along with that, I'm going to send the status, which is as the 200. Save it. This is the API for create. For edit, we need to create that edit API as well as, but first let's check this out whether it is working fine or not. Get into the table edit and form. This is the place where we are getting the table data. So here I'm going to bring the try and catch, and if there is any error is happening, I'm just going to get that error message and I'm going to display it in, because currently we don't have any toast or something for pulling the notifications. I'm just going to log that error. So whatever the error that we are getting, we need to print that message. So I'm just going to simply say bring the dynamic string literals. Something went wrong while saving table model. So whatever the error it is that we need to bring that, it is going to be error, and this we can't directly print that error. So I'm going to get the error as the error instance. Then I'm going to extract the message from there. Then I'm going to print that error message over there. Save it. And inside the try block try, I'm going to say if I do have the table data, which means I need to edit the, which means we are in the edit mode, right? We are in the edit mode. So I need to update the data in the server. Else what we are going to do, we need to create the new table, right? So here I'm just going to say await. For that we need the Axios, right? So clear pnpm add Axios. So add it. Then I just need to say pnpm run dev. So let's close this, refresh this one more time, and here I'm going to bring that Axios package. So in order to do that, I'm going to import Axios from Axios. So I do have the Axios await Axios dot post method. We need to call the post method, which is going to be /API. Make sure to add the /API /tables. /API/tables. That's the route that you're specifying it. Then along with that, you need to supply the data, whatever the data that we do collected from the form. Simply send it as it is, right? If everything is fine, if the data is being saved successfully, then right after here, I just need to refresh the router dot refresh. Okay. Close this. Then right after here in the finally block, anyways, I need to reset. Either if I updated the data or created the new data, I just need to reset the form. So form dot reset in the finally block. Save it. Now let's go ahead and try that creating a new table data. So we need to supply the ID, right? So basically the ID name should be equals to the ID, whatever the ID which we created over here. So it's better to open our public assets and change it into the code, and we can use these IDs over there. So this is the very first, this is the group ID, and these are the shapes, rectangles. So I'm going to use this, copy this. That's the ID that we are going to use, which is going to be lower sleeper berth, which is going to be the 01. Capacity, it's going to be 1. Seat, by default status is going to be available. Get into the network section. So this is the place where you can monitor the APIs and everything. And I'm just going to click the create, and you can see the API is being triggered, and we are getting an error, which it's saying module cannot resolve Prisma client runtime utils. So maybe the client issue. On the console, we should be able to see the error. So we are getting this error. So let's copy this module not found. Getting this error. So I'm not sure where is that error has been coming from. Maybe because of here. Okay, so it's asking us to remove everything and reinstall the latest Prisma and all those stuffs. Okay, let's do that then. So I'm gonna close this, minimize this, delete this next catch files, delete this node modules, and delete this pnpm log. Then I'm gonna simply remove pnpm, remove that Prisma, then at Prisma slash client. Hit the enter. Okay, so then let's install the pnpm add hyphen d in the Prisma. Let's install that one in the developer dependencies. So latest, at latest, hit the enter. Clear. Then let's add pnpm Prisma, sorry, pnpm add at Prisma slash client at latest version. Hit the enter. Clear. So let's remove this generated sections as well as remove this generated folder. Then let's install pnpm install everything. Yes, we got the node module. Then pnpm Prisma generate. It's going to generate that. So that's going to resolve this particular issue. Okay, so far no issues anymore. Then pnpm run dev. So it is going to run our applications without any issues. I hope so. Okay, so where is that assets? Code copy this. Get over here. Going to be lower birth b1. Okay, we are getting an issue. Theme. What's this issue is coming from? Suddenly we are getting uh components, theme provider component here, event dot e. Okay, we are getting an error from here. Let's try this and let's fix that issues. So click this new, let me close this, create new tables. We are still getting an error, lots and lots of error. I'm not sure what is the issue it's happening over here. Cannot resolve Prisma client runtime utils. Um, this is the overall error that we are getting. Let's try asking this. This is the error. I did everything you said. But we are not getting any TypeScript issues and all everything. Now the actual problem is clear. You're seeing provider Prisma client in new generated. Best to fix. Remove the custom output generated. How can we go with that? Cannot resolve internal Prisma runtime package correctly from the custom output directories when Prisma strays inside the node modules. Okay, so Wait a minute, let me try one stuff here. Schema.prisma, instead of this client, I change this npm Prisma generate. Okay, we are getting error over here now. Okay, let's follow this ChatGPT idea itself. Prisma client. Prisma client. Let's remove this, and let's remove this generated. Instead of that, let me clear all these things. Okay, and now let's generate this pnpm Prisma generate. Now it's not going to generate the Prisma client folder. New folder is generated, but now Prisma will generate it inside the node modules. If you get into the node modules, and there we can see the Prisma, and there inside over there you can see we have the clients and all those stuffs and everything. So now what we can do, we can get back over there, and from here I can simply get the value from the Prisma client. That should fix the issue. And let me clear this pnpm run dev. Let's now refresh this section. It should refresh it, and now we can copy this id and we can supply it. Okay, so now let's get into the network sections and create new. It's saying we are getting an error. Okay, so we are getting an issue in the creating the db instance, so we can simply replace this from there. Let's try this approach. And now refresh this, close this, table id, lower birth, and now if we create new, still we are getting the issue. Come on. Okay, so I just reverted back the output. Okay, because they are saying we need to make some connections, adapters, something and everything. So let's open up the Prisma. See, you can see we need to install this particular adapter, this particular package in order to work with the PostgreSQL. So let's open that. Prisma and Prisma client. Okay, then Prisma generate. The root cause, it's going to be, this is the package that we need to install, adapter Prisma adapter pg. So let's copy that. I'm going to close this, create this pnpm add adapter pg, install it. Let's add that. Okay, now if I run this pnpm Prisma generate, is going to generate that client. Okay, so it's going to generate that Prisma client over there. And now in the db.ts, inside the db.ts over here, not using this, I'm gonna close this, and I'm gonna bring this from import Prisma client from at generated. Okay, it's not showing the suggestion. Why? we have this. So let me reload this one more time. Please wait. I'm not sure what exactly happening right now because I'm facing lots and lots of issue on the latest version, which is I didn't even get these issues by the time when I'm practicing this code. But right now we are getting a lots and lots of error at generated Prisma client slash client. Save it. This is how that needs to be added. And in the schema, db.ts. Right now this issue is gone. I'm not sure why. Let's run this one more time. Once we added that adapter, it's not even showing that issues over there. That type error. Let's try. If you try to create, yep, we are getting that module error. Okay. So this needs to be getting these options. See these options, adapter and Prisma PG, something like that, right? So we added that. These are the things. And let's open the Prisma itself. Prisma, Next.js, Prisma latest. To get started with Prisma, you need to install few dependencies at type/pg, and of course okay, these are the packages they are adding. This is the output that it's been generated. Yeah, this is the output that it has been generated. Provider, which is going to be PostgreSQL. Prisma. Okay, we have to add these packages as well as npm add. I'm gonna add this. These we added this, and we need to add these two. Add.envpg. Clear. And it's been generated. This is the schema.prisma and Prisma config. Let's get into the Prisma config.ts. This is the Prisma config. Now these issues has been rectified, and tables, yes, this is for migrations. This is for generating it. They are getting the Prisma from the Prisma client. Okay, this is how you need to create the Prisma client. See, so let's get into the database, and inside the Prisma client, this is the place where we are getting the Prisma client, right? So here I need to create an object, and here I need to supply the object for the adapter, which is going to be new adapter, which is going to be Prisma. Okay, PG. We are not getting that. Wait a minute. So it's better to have in this specific way. First, let's import this. Import Prisma PG from at Prisma adapter PG. From the adapter PG, we are getting the Prisma PG. Yes, now we have that. And now let's generate the adapter. Let's say const adapter is equals to new Prisma PG. Open it, which in case it's going to be the connection string, which is coming from our database URL connection string, which is going to be process dot env dot database URL. This database URL. This is the database URL connection. Yes, that's the adapter connection which we created. And they having this Prisma client from add generated Prisma client. Okay, so they are creating a new Prisma. So const Prisma is equals to, and here I need to supply this adapter. Let's apply the adapter over here. Okay. And then they are creating the user create input. Okay, this is the data they are creating. Okay, so this is all we needed, right? Save this. This is what we needed. Now I'm just going to say pnpm prisma, not prisma, pnpm run dev. This should fix that issue, I think so. Now if I refresh this, let's get back into the section ls1 and lower it. I hope it will work now. Create new. Come on. Hmm. uh let's try this now. You have to fix this anyways. This is the instruction given in the Prisma documentation to create an adapter. Okay, so let's try it one more time. In the dev dependencies, we created the Prisma, right? So I'm just going to say pnpm remove Prisma. Then I need to remove the add Prisma slash client. I'm gonna remove both of them. Okay, now it's both of them being removed. Let's get into the here, and we need to add two of these informations, right? So these are the things I'm gonna add, all these informations. Copy pnpm add, oops, Prisma client. Then we need to add the Prisma. Okay, Prisma client, because they given the project itself now how to create the project. nps create next and create atlas Next.js Prisma, and this is the Prisma that we need to add. They're having these two packages, tsx and all that things is not necessary. Prisma, hit the enter. That's going to add both the Prisma. Here we go. Okay, it has been added, and let's kill this. Delete this, delete that, delete the pnpm yaml, and delete the node.js, and let's reinstall it now. Pnpm install. It's installing all the necessary packages now. Okay, and now let me generate pnpm prisma generate. It's now generated, so it should fix that issue. Okay, and let me reload my window one more time. All right, and let's try pnpm prisma. Let's migrate this one before pushing it. Let's migrate this. Let's migrate this Prisma migrate dev. Let's create the migration. So it's creating the migration now. Let's wait. Let's try to follow the documentation here, because whatever I did in my previous one, it's not working. So now we are trying the official documentation now. This thing I was not expected, but it's total disaster. Let's wait. Okay, now the migration is run. pnpm prisma db push. database is already PNPM Prisma. Let's open the studio and check. Error stream, premature close, no results found. Okay, so this is the, okay, we have all those informations. If I click insert row, it's trying to, okay, to Discord, which means it's working. Prisma Studio and everything is working now. Let's try it now. Prisma PNPM run dev. If still this one is existing, we have to figure it out what's the main issue. Otherwise, I need to reverse the exact version which I was using previously, and I need to figure it out this particular issue later. Okay, let's try. I hope this will work now. Nope, it's not working. So the one and only option which I do have right now, it is just to reverse it. Reverse this one into, okay, they given okay, this is what we added, right? So let me check. Let me try this one now. So here I'm going to delete everything as per the given information they given it, right, from the library prisma.ts file. This is the instance that you can get it, but here they are returning it as the Prisma. So we can use it as Prisma inside instead of here. Okay, let's save this, which means it will cause an issue in the API folder, app API routes. This DB, you can't see this DB here. You need to use the value as Prisma. Come on. What is the value that we exported it from here? Prisma. This is the value that we exported it. Then why we are not able to access it? Yes, Prisma, import Prisma. I hope this should fix the issue. PNPM run dev, and okay, so let me get into here and give it as the lowest input birth, and let me create new one. Come on, man. Why the heck it's keep on saying this runtime issue, runtime issue, runtime issue? I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what is the mistake that we are making over here. We are getting the data from Prisma client, Prisma from adapter, global Prisma. We are getting the adapter Prisma global.prisma, or else create a new instance. This is exactly what we did on the previous step itself. But why we are this is what mentioned in the Prisma documentation, but still I'm facing the same issue, which is this. What might be the issue? Come on, give me some suggestions. I'm not sure what is the issue over here. Provider is equals to I didn't even check that what provider they are using. Oh, they are using Prisma client. Let's revert this back to Prisma client then. Let's delete this generated folder. Clear this pnpn Prisma generate. Okay, now the issue should be rectified. Save it. pnpm run dev. Then let me close this. Refresh it. So this should fix that issue. I hope so. I have a positive feeling now. Okay. Yep, it's working. We can see that. See, we got the message. My God. Guys, that's the reason you should follow the official documentation, right? It took me a long time to figure out what exactly the mistake is, because I was using the very older version in my previous project, so then I'm using the same code which I used over there. But anyways, we figured out the mistakes and we solved the issues together, and the data, it's been stored successfully. Let's get back into the PostgreSQL database and let's make sure whether that data is inside the database or not. See, here we go. We have our data in our database now, which means it's working. Guys, we successfully fixed that issue. It's working smoothly as it's supposed to be. So now all we have to do is to get back and fetch the data and display the data into the table. Then we can go ahead and what is that we can go ahead and display that data, and we can get the data into the edit form. Then we can create the API for edit and fix that issue. All right then, so let me close all these things, close all, minimize everything. Okay, and now I have to get into the app, and in the table sections page.tsx, right? This is the place where we need to get the data, right? So let's go ahead and get that data first, because we need to collect the entire tables, right? In order to get that entire tables, we need to fetch the tables first. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the tables and display the tables over here. Okay, so this is the place where we have that tables wrapper, right? That we have the table ID as well as. So basically we need to collect the single table, and we have to collect the entire tables as well as. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to have an array. I'm going to use the await promises.all. So either you can go with promise.all settled or promise.all, but in this case I need both table and the tables, right? If I do have a table ID, then you need to fetch the table ID as well as fetch the data based on the table ID. If I don't have, it should return as null. The reason why we are using the all function is because whatever the functions which are given inside the all, everything needs to be completed successfully. If any one is not working, it should return the fail. Otherwise, if at least if you need any one of the data from the API, you can simply go with all settled function. Okay, so here I'm just going to say get table by table ID. That's the one function. For this function, I'm going to supply the table ID. Then along with this, I'm going to say get all table, fetch all tables. These are the two functions which we don't have yet, which is going to return the table and the tables as a collections. So we have to get this functions. So let's get into that. And in this root folder, I'm going to create myself a new folder called actions. Inside the actions folder, I'm going to create myself a new file called get table by table id.ts. Okay, so here I'm just going to export a function. So export const, use this exact same function, is equals to an asynchronous function which is going to return a table. I get the parameter as a table ID as a string, and it's going to return a promise. It's going to return a promise which is going to be a type of table from add Prisma client. Otherwise it is going to be a null value. Either return a table data or return the value as null. Here I need to get the try and catch. If there is any error is happening, I'm just going to say console.error on fetching the table ID. Then at the end, I'm going to return the data as the null. Okay. Otherwise, I'm just going to get the table const table, which is equals to await. We need to get the Prisma instance from db prisma dot table dot find unique. From that, I'm gonna fetch the data where id which is equals to table id. Okay, and at the end I'm gonna return the table, so you will not get any error over there. Along with that, we need to have one more functions, which is going to be fetch all tables. I'm gonna get that fetch all tables dot ts. Then here I'm gonna create that function now, that action functions, which is basically going to return all that export const fetch all tables, which is going to be an asynchronous function. And this function is basically going to return a promise, which is going to be the tables array table from the Prisma client, which is going to be the type of that. Okay, otherwise it needs to return an empty array if there is any issues. Open it. Here I'm gonna simply say that same try and catch. If there is any error is happening, console.log error on fetching the tables, then at the end we need to return empty array. Otherwise, here I'm just going to say const tables is equals to await prisma dot table dot find many. I'm gonna simply order the data order by using this created at field in the descending order. Okay, then at the end I just need to return the tables, which is going to fix that issue. Now let's get back over here and import those respective files from the respective locations. Save it, and instead of returning the empty, I'm gonna return the tables. Here I'm gonna return the table. Now save this, and if I refresh this, we're getting that what is that, refresh, and it's refreshed now, but we are not getting the table instance because here we are supplying the empty array. Now if I save this, you should be able to see the data whatever we saved, the lower berth available and the capacity of it. Now let's try it one more time. This is going to be 2, and let me change this into 2. Capacity, it's going to be 1. And now if I refresh it, once it is going to be refreshed, you will get the new data instantly in your table, which is working as we expected, right? Now when I click this, okay, I need to have a button, view button, action button. When I click that button, I need to send the data, that particular data ID in the URL, right? So let's get into the column sections right after here. Okay, so this is the place where we need to get the actions, right? So in order to get those actions, wait a minute. So in order to do that, so right after here, open it, and I'm gonna say keep that ID as actions. Then I'm gonna make sure the header, which is going to be actions. Then I need to get the cell data. I need to get the object as row. Then right after here, open it. Then I need to return something, right? Which is basically, it's going to be a button, and that button variant, which is going to be the ghost, and the size, which is going to be the icon, which is going to be the normal medium icon itself. Then inside over here, I'm going to bring the eye icon. Okay, but this needs to be navigated to the specific location from where next link, paste it. Okay, now where we need to take the user, this needs to take the user to the specific location, right? So for that, which is going to be href, right, equals to, open it, we need to get that dynamic string literals, take the user to the tables. Along with that, I need to get the row ID, right? So I'm gonna say row dot original dot id. We can get that id and send the user to that specific id, right? So save this informations, save it. So you should be able to see one more, and when you move your cursor over on the top, you can see it's showing the id slash table slash id. Now if I click this, it's going to fetch that id and it's going to supply that information to the form, and you can see we have all those informations in the form now, right? Now all we have to do is to, if I want to make any like update actions, right, that's the part we need to do. Now if I click this, you should be able to see it's trying to fetch the second data. If I click it here, you can see it's fetching the second data, and you can see it's bringing the lower birth 2. Now currently in the form, you can see it's 2, and if I click the number 1, it's going to fetch the number 1 and it's going to display the fit number 1. But now it's, if I want to make any updates, it's not going to work. The reason is because in the table edit of update form, we haven't add any API for updating the for that particular API. It's not been written. So let's get into that and fix that issue now. So what I'm going to do is, inside the API, inside the tables folder, create a dynamic folder, which is going to be table ID. Then inside over here, I'm going to create myself a new file called route.ts. And here inside the route, I'm going to bring the const patch, which is going to be an asynchronous function, and it is an arrow function. And inside this is the place where we are going to get the request, which is going to be next request, which needs to be imported. Then along with that, we are going to get the params. So we have to get the params, which is the type of an object, and that is going to be the params object itself, which is going to return a promise. And that promise is going to have an object which is going to carry on the table ID, and that's a string. This is how you need to return the params. Then inside over here, I'm gonna get the try and catch. If there is any error is going to happen, so I'm just going to say console.log error, whatever the error which is going to happen. Then I just need to return the next response failed to update the table details, something like that. Then inside the try block, all I have to do is to fetch the table ID from the parameters. So from the params, I'm going to access the table ID. Make sure that table ID can be accessible. If it is not accessible, then you are mismatching. The spelling might be mismatching. So if the table ID is not there, which means the table ID is missing, so you need to simply say table ID is missing. You need the table ID. Then we need to figure it out whether that table ID is existing or not. So I'm just going to say const existing table, which is equals to await prisma dot table, which is need to be imported prisma dot table dot find unique, open it, then where id is equal to table ID. So if I don't have the existing table, I just need to return it, right? I just need to return that table is not found. If not existing table, then I just need to return the data as this table not found. Then I just need to get the body data const body, which is equals to await request.json. Then I just need to update the data, whatever I do have in the body, update table, which is equals to await prisma dot table dot update, open it, send the object in it where you need to send the table ID. Then you need to supply the data, which is going to be your body itself. Whatever that object has been updated, update that particular one. Then at the end, we just have to return the successful data over here, which is going to be your update table. Okay, this is the one. This is the API. Let's close this. And now let me try to, let's say, lower sleeper berth, let's say lower sleeper 1, something like this. Now if I click this, it is going to, it needs to trigger that API, but nothing is happening. The reason is because in the table add or edit form, we haven't given any API call over here. So here I'm just going to say await Axios. Simply going to copy this and I'm going to paste it straight away over here. But this time I need to supply the ID, which is going to be params dot table ID. Okay, save it. Now if I change this into lower sleeper berth 1, something like this, I'm just going to click the save changes. You can see it's showing, but now we are getting an error. What is that error we are getting? 405. Console, we are not getting any errors in the console. Something went wrong saving the table model. 405. What is the issue that we are getting over here? Slash API slash, it needs to take the user to slash API slash tables. Let me close this and let's try one more time. Not sure, because in the header itself we are not getting. Okay, method not allowed. Maybe because I was using the post method. Yes, it needs to be patch method. Use the patch method and then now change this into 1. Now it should fix that issue. Save it. Yep, it's giving us the data as 200. Okay, but the router is not being refreshed, so we have to do one more thing. We just have to replace that router, right? So right after the successful, we can see it will work. If you refresh it, if you refresh it, it is going to work. See, it's updated the data, right? So once the user successfully updated, I just need to replace the route, push the user again to where? Slash tables slash all. Push the user to that particular location. Now let me open this number 2. Okay, it's loading the number 2 data over here, and here I just need to change the number into number 2. And if you click the save changes, it is going to update the data and push the user, and you can see we have the updated data in our hand. Right now, all you have to do is to go ahead and create all the datas, IDs, whatever the ID that you do have over here, like 1, 2, 3. You need to bring all those ID informations inside over here. Next, we are going to bring that this SVGs into that particular page, and we are going to make sure whether that table is available or not available, whether it is booked or not. So we are going to do that particular part next. Okay. All right then, so now what you have to do is I'm going to close all these things, close all. So because I already added all these seats over here, and you can see the status, everything is available now. So I'm gonna close all these things, and in the app, this is the route. This is the place where we are getting all our the home page, right? So let me get into the localhost 3000. So that is going to take us to the home page. This is the home page currently we are in, right? So over here, what I'm going to do is, so we need to get all the tables. First, we need to fetch all the tables, right? So for that, I'm going to make some modifications over here. So right after here, I'm going to create myself a main section, a main, which is going to be class name. Oops, class name, and that needs to take the complete available length flex 1, and padding it's going to be 5, and basically it's going to be width full as well as width full. And inside here we are going to bring our the suspense fallback content, right? So instead of writing these things over here, I'm gonna bring the suspense fallback over here, suspense, and then I'm gonna bring the wrapper content, page wrapper content over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that wrapper content now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say const wrapper content is equals to an asynchronous operation. Open it, and inside over here I'm just going to say const we need to fetch the complete tables, right? So equals to await promise dot all, open it. And maybe in futures, if you're working with the APIs for fetching the reservations and all those things, this needs to be ready for that as well. As so I'm just going to say fetch all tables. Okay, and then this wrapper content needs to return something, which is going to be your main section, right? Inside this main section, this is the place where we are going to display that the main dine-in content and everything. So here I'm just going to bring that dine-in content. So I'm just going to say dine-in. It can be reservation systems, or it's going to be dining systems, right? So I'm just going to keep that as the reservation, or you can see let's say booking system, right? Something like this, booking system. Okay, which it's going to take the tables, and future it's also going to take the reserved seatings or reservations, something like that. Okay, so we don't have this dine-in the booking system component, so I'm gonna create myself over here inside the apps. Okay, let me keep it over here. It's new file as booking system.tsx, and mark this as the client component, use client, or RAFC, which is going to be booking system, and it is going to take an interface booking system props, open it. It's going to take the tables, which is going to be the table at Prisma generated client, and it is going to be an empty. Okay, and here let's bring this booking system, and of course we need to bring this over here, save it, and save this as well. As so now if you refresh this section, if you refresh this page, you should be able to see the booking system, right? Which means we do have the tables and all those details over here. So let's get back into the booking system now. So basically what we need to do is we need to maintain it's better to keep all the selected seats or selected tables in a global store, so that we can share it across the multiple components. So in order to work with the global store, we need to install a very specific package called Zustand, right? So I'm going to create myself a Zustand. So let's say not create, I'm going to add Zustand. This is like a global state management library for the mid-tier applications, but if you are going for enterprise level applications, something a bigger one, I strongly recommend you to go with the Redux Thunk or Redux Toolkit, something like that. Okay, so I'm gonna stick with this Zustand right now, so which we added. Then let's say npm run dev. All right, oh my god, it started raining. Okay, so now what we have to do is to inside the hooks folder, I'm going to create myself a new custom hook called use booking store, something like this. And here I'm just going to import that package from the Zustand. I'm going to get the create instance, create. Then I'm going to create myself an interface booking store. Okay, so here store, okay, that's fine. So here first we need to get the selected seats or selected tables, whatever it is. So I'm just going to get the selected tables, which is going to be a strings of arrays. Okay, then I'm gonna get the select table function, which is going to be a function which is basically get the ID as the string. Then if it is going to carry on the multi-select options or not, that's the option that we need to choose. Okay, so now what we have to do is I'm just going to say, I don't know why it's reversed. Let's keep this as multi-select, which in case it's going to be an optional, and it's going to be an boolean value. And this function is going to return void. It's not going to return anything else. Then I'm going to have one more function which is going to be clear selection function, which is going to be a function and it doesn't return anything. These are the things. Then I'm just going to say export const use booking store is equals to create with this data booking store. Then it's going to have a function. This basically this function it's going to get return a value, and that value is going to be an object. And inside this function we're gonna set a parameter which is going to be the set value. And inside this object, open it. So first I need to define the value. So let's keep that as the selected tables. What are the tables that selected by the user, which is going to carry as the array. Then we're going to have a function which helps us to select the table, which is going to be select table. This is that function, right? It's this select table function. And that function is basically taking ID and multi-select options, right? Which is going to be a function, right? And inside this function, which is going to be ID and multi-select, that's the value. Make sure this and this are matches properly, multi-select, and by default it's going to be false because it's an optional value. Multi-select is an optional parameter, and so we need to supply the default value. Then using the set function, I'm gonna access using the set function. This is the set function. Inside the set function, I'm gonna access the state, right? And open it. We're gonna have the state, right? Inside this we're gonna have the state. Inside here I'm gonna make sure if it is multi-select, if the multi-select option is true, then at that point, if multi-select, if this one is true, I'm just going to say const exist equals to state dot selected table dot includes. If that includes that ID, which means if it is exist in that, then I just need to return selected tables exist. If it is exist, then I need to return the exist, or else I need to say state dot selected tables dot filter, then get that particular table outside of it. That particular table should not be equals to the loaded ID. Okay, if else, then I just need to include that ID along with that particular table. Okay, so here return the array, destructure the state dot selected table array completely, then along with that add the new ID which we included in it. So basically what we are saying, what we are returning over here is, if the user is multi-selecting it, we need to make sure whether that particular ID is already inside that array or not. If that is already existed, then I just need to make sure. If it is existed, then I just need to remove that ID and return it as an array, or else I need to create a new array along with those existing values. I need to add this particular new ID in that existing array, right? That's what we are trying to do over here. And then right after here in this return statement, right after here, this is the if condition. This is the place where this if condition is being finished. Over here we need to add the else mark. Else I just need to say return selected tables, which is going to with that particular new ID. Okay, if it is not a multi-select. Right now this is the place where the if condition is being finished, and this is the place where the selected table function is being finished, and here I need to create the clear selection, which is going to be the arrow function, which is going to set, basically we are going to set the selected tables array into an empty array. This is what we are trying to do over here. This is the custom hook which we created for ourselves, right? So let's get back into our booking system over here. This is the place. So I need to access those the data which from our custom store. So I'm just going to access those equals to, come on, equals to use booking store. From there I'm going to access the necessary informations like selected table, then clear table, clear selection, select table, or table spelling mistake. Table, and here also it should be table. Okay, so now we have all those necessary things. Then right after here, we need to create an empty object reference. So I'm just going to say object reference is equals to use reference hook. Use reference hook, which is going to carry on the HTML object element, or else it's going to be a null value. That's the type of that reference. By default, it is going to carry on the null value. All right. So right after here, we need to have the function which is handle click function for selecting the table. Then we need to have like what is it? We need to calculate the stuff. What are the stuffs we need to calculate? We need to compute the count dynamically. What are the available seats or available tables, and how many of them booked and how many of them are available. We need to compute them dynamically, and that is going to be a huge function. So we need to use the use memo hook in order to memorize those functions, because we don't want to be continuously calculating that, because that stuff needs to be memorized. Only if that has been any changes happening over there, then only we need to recalculate it. Otherwise we don't want to do that. That's the reason we are going to use the use memo hook. So let's compute the count status dynamically using use memo hook. That's the stuff that we need to do. Then we need to have the use effect hook in which is going to on loading, we need to highlight what are the tables are available and what are the stuffs are not available. We need to highlight that, right? So in order to show the differentiations, like to highlight the book receipts in the different colors, available seats in the different colors, we need to load those data directly into the SVGs. To do that, we need a use effect function, right? We need to have the use effect hook for what? For to inject the styles and the selection styles on loading itself, right? And for loading and when the selected table changes, that's for that particular use effect hook. We need to have that use effect hook, right? So then we need to have another use effect hook for applying those changes. We need to have another use effect. Okay, these are the functions that we need to build in this sections. So right after here, this is the place where we're gonna load the main UI. So for that, I'm just going to make sure this section open it. So what we have to do is so for this section, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say class name, which is going to be flex1, and of course width, it's going to be width is full. And basically we're going to make sure that as the grid, and the grid column it's going to be 1, but from medium devices onwards, grid column it's going to be 12 different spaces. Then gap, of course, it's going to be 4. Padding, of course, it's going to be 4. Save it. So let me enable the word wrap so that you can see it clearly. And so let me make it even a little bigger so you can see it even bigger now. So next, what we are going to do is we're gonna have to bring the selected sections, right? Like how we are going to select and what are the available calculated stuffs, right? We need to display those things as well. As so for that, I'm going to create myself a division. So let's say div class name flex, item center, gap is going to be 4, text smaller size, and then font is going to be medium, and then column span it's going to be 12 column spans, and then space between them it's going to be justified between, because we are inside a grid, so we need to make sure that it's taking the complete available width as well as, right? So now we need to bring the left section, which is going to be, I'm going to bring the left section, and we have to bring the right section. Okay, so basically in the left section, what we are going to do, we're going to give the tips for the user for what are the keys combination they need to use for selecting the multiple keys, right? And in the right hand side, right section, we're going to display the count status. That is what we are going to do now. For that left section, I'm just going to create a div, and for this div I'm going to use the class name, and which is going to be flex item center, and justify everything needs to be in the center as well as, and the gap needs to be 2, and the text size it's going to be smaller, and the text needs to be muted foreground color. And then padding, of course I'm going to increase the padding a little bit, and here inside I'm going to bring myself a span tag. So basically what we are going to do is we're going to use this, the kbd, something like that. Yeah, here if you search for kbd, so you can see these are the, this is how we are going to display the icons over there. So what are the, like if you, the user wants to select, like they need to click the, hold the controller and the click button, so to select the multiple seats, we're going to instruct that. So for that I'm just going to bring it and I'm going to display it over here. This is what I'm going to display over there, something like this. So I need to select the kbd from UI, select it, so save the changes, and this is how it's going to looks like. Okay, tip: hold control or alt or command key while clicking to select multiple tables. That's the instructions for the users that we are giving right now. Then in the right hand side, basically this is going to be a division, which is, that is also going to be class name, which it's going to be flex item center, and justify center gap it's going to be 2. And then inside over here I'm going to bring myself a division which is going to display the available count, booked count, and the overall selected count, how many tables have been selected, because currently we need to display the selected seats counts as well as how many seats that's been selected by the users. So this is the place where we need to display the status by count. Okay, that's what we need to do next, right? So let's go ahead and do that now. All right then, so now what we have to do is, let's leave this part for the time being, and right after this section, right over here, I'm gonna bring the main container. So let's bring the main container. So I'm gonna add the class name, which of course it's going to be column span of 12 on the small devices, but from the medium devices onwards the column span needs to be 9. Okay, that's what it's going to be. And inside this main section, right, inside this main section, what we are going to do is we're gonna bring the title first. So let's say div class name, which is going to be flex item center, and gap it's going to be 2, and margin bottom it's going to be 4, something like this. Then right after here I'm gonna bring the calendar days, I think so, yes, calendar days, that's the icon that we want. So I'm going to bring that icon, and the size of this icon is going to be somewhat like 20 or something. That would be perfect, I think so. Then the h2, which is going to be h2, and inside here I'm just going to be, say, reserve a seat, something like this, reserve a seat or table or whatever it is. So here I'm just going to say class name, and the text size it's going to be 2XL. Then font needs to be semi bold, then it needs to be tracking tight, something like this. So that should looks like this. Okay, then right after that, what we are going to do is we're going to bring ourselves a division. Right after this div, I'm going to bring myself a div class name, and then basically the class of these classes for this, it's going to be position needs to be relative, width of course it's going to be full, and then overflow needs to be automatic. bg it's going to be I don't need any bg for the time being, but let's save this. And inside over here I'm going to bring ourselves the object. So basically we're going to load the svg, right? So we're going to load that as the object, so using this object as a self-closing tag inside over here, because that is what we are getting over here, HTML object elements, right? For this object I'm going to create myself a reference, which is going to be object reference. Then the type of this object, which is going to be image, then slash, which is going to be SVG plus it's going to be XML. Okay, this is the type of that specific object, and the data of that object, which is going to be slash what is the date, what we have to do, that thing needs to be inside public assets, so which is, this is the file name, right? So I'm gonna say, which is inside slash assets slash lower.svg, right? Assets slash lower of svg. Perfect, that's fine. Then class name, which is going to be class name width, of course full, height of course full. Then right after here, I'm gonna say area label, which is equals to main lower layout, something like this. Okay, so let's save this. So that should bring our layout structure over here, right? So now we have ourselves the lower layout structure, and for this, now what we need to do is we need to write the use effects. We need to write the use effects based on the tables whatever we do have. With that, we need to highlight the colors and all those stuffs, and we need to calculate the rest of the booked count, selected count. So let's go ahead and do that all that one by one. So first function, we're gonna add const handle click. That's the event that we are going to do. Open it, and this function, for this function, we're going to send an event which is going to be, we're going to use this global, this instance. From the global, I'm going to get the mouse event, or else I'm going to get from the React, I'm going to get the mouse event. Okay, it's going to either use the global event mouse event, or it's going to access the React. From that, we're going to access the mouse event. Then I'm going to get the table ID, which in case it's going to be the string itself. Save it. Then inside this function, what we're going to do, I'm just going to say const multi. If it is multiple select, so then I need to capture the keys. What are the keys it's going to be? It's going to be the control key, it's going to be the alternative key, and it's going to be the meta key, which is the command key for your Mac. Okay, these are the keys. Then I just need to send select table. I need to supply the table ID, then along with the instance, multi-instance. That's the instance which we have to supply to that function, right? This is the handle click function, and that handle click function, so where we are going to add that handle click function, that's the most important stuff. Okay, so let me show you where are we going to handle that. So basically this will be dynamically injected to a listener event inside the use effect, so that's the reason we are having that. Okay, so now since we finished that, we need to add this compute the count status of that. So let's go ahead and compute that. So for that, const is equals to use memo hook. Okay, let's import the use memo hook. So from the use memo hook, it's going to have a callback function, and it's going to have the array dependency injections. So from this, I'm gonna get the available count, then I'm gonna get the booked count, then from there I'm gonna get the selected count, how many seeds have been selected. These are the things that I'm going to fetch it from there. So inside this array dependency injections, whenever there's a changes on the tables, or whenever there is a changes on the selected tables, it needs to be updated. Okay, now inside this function, we have to calculate all those things. First, we need to figure out how many of them were available and how many of them were booked, then how many of them were selected. So for that, const available, which is equals to tables dot filter. I'm going to use this filter, then I'm going to access the table out of it. From that, using the table status, if the table status, if it is equals to available, then I need to return its length. Okay, then of course it's going to throw an error, don't worry about it, we will fix that. Then right after that, we're going to have to get the const booked. We need to fit the const booked Okay, so I'm going to get the const booked is equals to tables dot filter dot status dot length book dot length. Then of course right after here we need to get the selected, so overall selected tables dot length, and then finally I have to return the available count, booked count, and the selected count. It needs to be returned perfectly, so now it will not throw any specific error and it is calculating those things. Okay, now we have all those calculated stuffs and everything. So let's go ahead and display that calculated stuff which we do have in our hand, which needs to be displayed in the right section over here, and that is what we are going to do now. So here I'm going to create myself a div, and then inside this div basically what we are going to do is we're going to have ourselves the class name, and the class name is going to be flex item center gap needs to be 1. Then inside over here I'm going to bring myself the span tag, which is going to display the text of span and which is going to display the available count, just like this. Okay, span tag with this specific style and span tag with the available text count. So once you save it, you should be able to see how many available tables are there. And then we're gonna have to display the rest of the stuffs as well. As so let me do that now. Wait a minute, I'm gonna bring, so because we don't want to waste the time on this, just the displaying stuff, something like this: booked, available, and deselected. How many of them were selected? Something like this. Okay, so now we can see it showing available and booked, none of them were booked, and we can see the selected is in the green color, right? So let's go ahead and write the styles. Later we can worry about the coloring part and all those stuffs and everything. Now what we have to do is, this is the place where we have to bring the use effects to inject all those styles. So let's bring the use effect hook, use effect hook, open it, and inside it should have a callback function, and inside it should have the array dependency injections. So basically the array dependency injections, it's going to keep tracking on the tables. Whenever there is a changes on the tables, it needs to re-render it inside over here. Now I need to get the object element references. So const object element, which is equals to object reference dot current. Okay, then right after here, if I don't have an object, of course I need to return it. So that's the safest measure that you need to do. Then I'm going to have an handle load function. It's going to be an arrow function, open it, and inside over here I'm just going to say svg doc. I'm going to access the svg doc. Svg doc is equals to, from the object reference, sorry, the object element, from the object element I'm going to get the content document. Okay, then of course if I don't have the svg doc as well, as I just need to return it. That's the safest thing. Then I need to access the root element of the svg. So const svg root is equals to svg doc dot query selector, which is going to be the svg. So by that way we can access the svg's root element. Then of course if I don't find out any svg's elements, of course over there, then I just have to return. If I don't have figured out any svg root element, I just have to return it. Okay, so if you want to do any console log, but basically every time when you're working on a very first time, you just, instead of simply returning it, you just do have a warning console logs, so that you can figure it out from which point we are getting. But this code, I know that these are the things that we don't get any errors over here, so that's the reason I ignored the loggings. But for your best cases, open this if condition, do a console log, and then return. Okay, so right after here, then what we need to do is we need to inject the styles for the status and the selection. So for that I'm just going to create myself the style tag is equals to svg doc. We're going to access the svg doc. Then I'm going to create myself the create element ns, this function namespace with the specific namespace for the svg. That's why we are using create element ns function. Open it. So basically that is going to be an svg. So you have to use this. Then you need to supply the styles for this. Okay, this is how you need to define. Then right after here, for the style tag, I'm going to add the text content. What are the styles that I'm going to define, which is going to be dynamic string literals inside over here. Okay, bring yourself the dynamic string literals. open and close it, and then semicolon. Inside over here, we need to bring the dynamic string literals. What are the styles that we are going to do for the table available tables and for table booked? So what are the styles? So let me bring those styles. So these are the styles that I'm gonna use. This is the style I'm creating. Table available, fill color, this is the color it needs to be, light blue, and the stroke blue, stroke width, transitions for the table booked, selected table path. These are the things. Okay, now save it. Then this is the place it's getting finished, right? So right after here, I'm gonna say SVG root. For the SVG root, I just need to say insert before function. Based on this, I'm going to import that style tag for the SVG root first child. Okay, first child, not for the last one, because that's the selected one. So the first child. Then I need to add a click listeners for each and every of this. I need to add a click listener event for each and every element inside the every path inside that SVG. Then only you can select or deselect those things. So for that, what I'm going to do is those click event needs to be created based on the available seeds. So for that, I'm gonna say tables dot for each. Using this, I'm gonna access the table out of it, open it. Then for each table, we're gonna assign an element. So const element is equals to svg doc dot get element by id. So we're gonna supply the table id inside into it. Table dot table id, not just id. Table dot table id. Don't simply supply the id. Id is automatically generated by the PostgreSQL, but the table id is the one that we needed, because that is the one which is going to match the id of your layout structure which we defined. Okay, so that's the thing you need to supply. Don't make mistakes over here. Then right after here, if I don't have that specific element, I just have to simply return it. I don't have to do anything. So for the time being, I'm just going to do the console.log what element I just selected, because I need to figure it out whether that particular element is there or not, element with that specific id. Okay, then I just need to say const path is equals to element dot query selector, and then I need to select all the available possibilities, whether it is going to be a path, or it's going to be a rectangle shape, or it's going to be a polygon shape, or it's going to be a circle or ellipse. Whatever the shape it's going to be, it needs to select everything. So you have to make sure that it is going to select everything, whether it is going to be a path, or it's going to be rectangle, or it's going to be polygon, or it's going to be circle, or it's going to be ellipse. So please make sure that it is been selecting each and everything. Okay, so whatever the available shapes it should select everything. Then right after that, if I don't have that path, I just have to return it, safe return it. Then if it does have, then this is the place where we need to apply the initial color based on the status. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say path dot class list. Inside the class list, first I'm going to remove the available classes, the table available and the table booked, whatever it is. I don't need this one. Okay, if it is the table available and the table booked is that in that particular path, first I need to remove it. Then based on the table dot status, if the table dot status, if it is equals to available, then at that point, this is the place where I need to add the class list dot add table available. Then right after here, this is the place where I'm going to do the else if the table dot status, if it is equals to booked, then adds the path, I'm going to say table dot booked. Now I'm going to add some come on, suggestions. These things are killing me, man. So here I'm just going to say element, come on, element dot add event listener. For this add event listener, I'm gonna add the click event. Then I'm gonna access the event out of it. Based on this event, we're gonna call this handle click event. Then I'm gonna send this event as what particular event? Global we're going to say global this dot mouse event. I'm going to send this as that particular event. Then I'm going to send the table dot id from it. Okay, at this point you just need to send the original realistic id, because here we are using the table id because we need to use this, we need to fetch, we need to map this particular id with the table id. So that's the reason we are using that table id to get the that particular svg element. But inside this handle click event, you need to send the auto generated id, because we are going to save that id to fetch it back and to update the status in our database. So we need this id. Okay, so for that, for this purpose only, we are supplying this id over here. So don't confuse yourself. So save it. Now right after here, I'm just going to say object element, which we do have object element dot, come on, add event listener. Then I'm gonna call the load event. In that, I'm gonna say handle load reference function, supply that. Then at return, I'm gonna simply return it. I'm gonna return object element dot remove. We need to remove that listener event. Now if I refresh this, nothing is changed. But if I change any one particular table status as booked, for instance, here it is available, let me change this into booked, and let me change this one into booked, and let me change this one into booked. Save these changes. And now if I refresh this, see, we are getting 15 available and 3 booked, but the colors are not changing over here. Let me check. Refresh it. Inspect elements, go to the element sections. So the id, everything is figured out over here. All the elements, see, you can see the console log what we returned, it's everything, it's been printed over here. It's been printing, see, but we can't see the color changes over there, which means we made some mistakes. Let's figure it out. Okay, confusing, it is getting confusing. Instead of changing everything into booked, I'm gonna keep only one, so that we can keep track that particular one, which is going to be lower sleeper one, LSP01. Let's figure out, this is the one. So this needs to have that particular style. um what is the mistake? This is that id. For this particular element only, it needs to add that particular style. I added the rectangle shapes as well as, but I'm not sure why it is not been working. Okay, let's see. First, let we have to write one more use effect function, right? So maybe we have to finish that one as well as. So let me finish that one, and then we can figure it out, because those elements are not, because if you check it out, that particular style, that if you inspect the elements for that rectangle sections, we can't see that style attribute. Maybe because of that. Let's see. Here for this, if there is any changes on the selected tables, and if there is any changes on the tables as well as, it needs to be re-rendered. And inside over here, we're gonna have ourselves the same svg docs and everything. So for that, I'm gonna copy this, and I'm gonna paste this. Then I'm gonna get this svg doc. Then I'm gonna use this over here. Save it. Then right after here, for this, I'm just going to say tables dot for each, open it. Then I'm going to access the table out of it, open it. So for that, first I'm going to select the group based on that specific let me check, inspect. Yeah, we're gonna have to select that element by id. Let's keep that particular, this element, this one, this is as a complete group, so let's keep that one. That's how we have to fetch it. Then for that we're gonna have to select the path, whether that is going to be in that query selector, whether it is going to have that path or not. Then let me add the same stuffs. So this is the remove selection. We're gonna have to remove the selected table path. Then for the path class list, we're gonna add these stuffs. So save it and refresh it. Now if I clicking it, it's nothing is happening. Why it is not happening? Okay, let's check with the chat GPT. I'm gonna copy these two. And let me open the chat GPT. Let's paste that, and let's open this code, and I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste that one as well. As then we're gonna instruct the chat GPT. What's the issue here that I can't see the styles changes in the UI? Is going to figure it out. What's the mistake that we made? I think I messed up with the group actions inside the use effects. Maybe because of this, applying the part, accessing the element and applying it. So the main issue is in this line, rectangle example, rectangle ID. Okay, so when you do SVG doc, it's itself, okay, it's selecting it itself, but then we are using this rectangle element dot query. Okay, basically we are directly selecting the element itself. Then after that we are trying to figure it out the path. That's the issue. That is what it is giving us the error over here. And this is the updated code. It has been given by the chat GPT. So it's giving us the insert before, then tables, and we are accessing the element, and this is the thing. And then right after here, so we're gonna manage ourselves. Okay, so here at this point, and so if not element, okay, after here, from this to this, let's add, remove this. From this part to this part, let's remove this part. Okay, from there I'm gonna make sure const shape, I'm gonna copy from there to there, then I'm gonna paste it. So we are going to giving us conversion type of HTML type to SVG element may be a mistake in neither of the type of substitute. HTML element is missing. Okay, let's ask this the chat GPT again. This is what it's giving. Where we defined it in the object reference, we let's give this complete code. Let's give this complete code, and then let's ask the chat GPT to provide us. This is the complete code. Analyze it and try to fix it. So okay, Problem 2, load event time. Then problem 3, duplicate event listeners. So full fixed use effect versions. Okay. So we are which use effect it is this? Use effect. Okay, this use effect. This use effect is what's talking about. Or it has been doing both of them in a single. Okay, let's try that. Let me copy this and let me delete this one and let me paste it. And then later we can review it. Let's save these changes. And if I refresh this, okay, nothing is happening. Actually, the main mistake what we made is, so this is the line where we made mistake. So basically we are directly accessing the element itself. From that element, again we are trying to get into that element and searching for a path or rectangle, but we already access the rectangle directly. So that's why instead of this particular line, we added this const path element as unknown as SVG element, right? So we directly accessing it. So that is what the chat GPT is also giving us over here. So inside the use effect one, in the first, we instead of this particular line, we have to change it into this. The reason why it is giving us, it's because, see, the issue is here, right? We are trying to access the path or rectangle which is inside that element, but we are already accessing that particular element directly by using the ID, which is already a rectangle. So again, I don't need to check it. So that's the reason. So you have to change that path into direct element. You need to make sure that is an element as an unknown type, or it is going to be an SVG element type. So we are saving it as a path. For that path, we are making that class list and adding the table available and all those stuffs and everything. And now we can see the booked one is looking like this. And if you're willing to select, hold your alt or control key, click it, the selected tables will be changed their colors over here. Okay, and this is exactly what we needed, right? And it's actually working. So the main coding over stuff over here, it's based on this UI, this use effect. So basically we, for this entire layout object, we made it as an object reference, and for that object element, it's been accessing the current layout which we loaded over here, and it will be stored over in the object element. If it is not there, return it. Then I created myself the handle load function, and then I'm trying to make sure that loaded layout document, it is going to be the SVG doc. We are loading the entire content document in the name as SVG doc. If it is not there, return it. Then we are trying to figure it out the root element, which is going to be the SVG. That's the root element which is going to be SVG. We are trying to access that SVG. If the SVG root is not there, simply return it. If the SVG is there, then we are trying to create a style tag based on the create element ns function. With the help of that, we are trying to add this, and we are trying to add the style attribute for that particular element, right? If we check it out, the inspect elements, you can see it does have this class attribute table booked, right? And these are the styles it has been applied for that specific section. And that is what we are trying to do over here, making sure the tag is ready to apply the classes. So we are creating insisting to do that by using this create element ns function. Then we are adding the text content. These are the available styles that you need to do for that. Okay, these are the styles that we, for this look and feel UI, which I created over here. Then for the SVG root, I'm going to insert before the style tag. See, you can see we have the style tag, and all these styles, it's been inserted before that SVG elements. Okay, from this we're going to access those styles, and we are inserting to that SVG. Okay, so that's why we are inserting before the first child of the group. This is the group, and that's the place. Before that, we are adding those styles, so later we can access those styles from that, because we need to load somewhere. Because either, or what you can do, we can load these styles directly into your global.css file, or you can do it over here. But in this case, I prefer to go in this way, because this will be loaded only when it's necessary, not every time. Okay, then based on the table's data, I don't want to go beyond the table data, so that's why we are mapping through the table's data. For each and every element, we're gonna access every single element each based on the table ID, which is going to map this particular table ID, right? Then after that, we're going to make sure that element is not there. Have to return it, right? So we are accessing each and every element based on that ID. So previously what we did, and the example what I practiced, it has a group, and inside that group it's going to have that shape. So that's the reason I returned this particular code. But in our case currently, we don't have any group inside for this element, because we can directly access the element itself. So at this point we directly already access the element. Then we are assigning that element, whether it is a type as unknown or as the SVG element, into the path. Then for the path, I'm going to assign the class list based on the status. This is what it's doing. Now if you refresh this, it is going to load the data color based on the status, right? So if the status is available, then it is going to make sure the available color for each and everything. If it is booked, then it is going to keep the table booked color by default when you're loading it. But at the same point, we need to add the event listeners for each and every element. Then only the click event will work. Otherwise, it will not work. If you click it singly, it's going to select that particular element. But if you hold either these keys, if you hold any of these keys, of course the select table is going to react as a multiple select, right? Then you can select the multiple table. That's why we are using that handle click function over there. Then on multiple select, it's going to change the color, right? It's changing the green color. This green color is being changed from the second use effect hook, which we do have. At that point, we are going to have the same object reference entirely, selecting the SVG dog, and we are trying to figure out each and every element one by one. Then make sure that element is an SVG element. Then we are trying to add the styles for it. Now if you click one by one, it is going to select the one single style, or if you hold the alt or control key or command key, it is going to select the multiple select, right? And then now if you have a button over here, then based on, for instance, let's say I want to display all the selected table informations, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to display all the selected tables informations, so that we can push that data into a database, or we can update the data, something like that. So here, right after the main sections, I'm going to make sure aside section class name, which is, this is going to be column span of 12, but on the medium devices column span of 3. And inside over here, I'm gonna bring like what we can do, we can bring it as a card. Okay, for the card, I'm just going to say class name, padding needs to be 5, then shadow needs to be SM, small shadow, then border needs to be primary. Out of primary 20%, it's enough. So that's how it's going to be. Rounded needs to be medium, and inside over here we just needs to display how many tables have been selected. That's what we need to display, right? So for that, I'm gonna have an h3 tag, so where I can display, simply say one table selected or multiple tables selected. Based on that data, I'm going to display it from UI batch. This is the data. Okay, you can see we totally selected 5 different tables. 5 tables have been selected. Then right inside the h3 tag, this is the tag where we need to display the selected tables list. So from the selected tables, I can simply display the selected table informations, like the table name or something, stuff like that. So here I'm going to create myself a div, or we can simply go with the card description, this style. Inside over here, for this I'm just going to say space y, which is going to be 3, and the maximum height, it's going to be 64, not beyond that. And then overflow y, it's going to be auto. Then padding right side corner, it's going to be 1. Okay, and inside over here, I'm going to say selected tables dot map, open it. and bring a function, and inside this map function I'm gonna get the id, selected id. Then I'm just going to say const table is equals to tables dot, I need to find that id, tables dot find. Then I'm going to extract the table out of it. T dot id needs to be equals to the id which we extracted. Then I'm going to set the status color based on the status colors. So this is what I'm going to color styles I'm going to use for the status colors. Based on the available, this is what needs to be. Based on the status booked, this is what needs to be. Otherwise, this is the color it needs to be. Then at the end, I just need to return an HTML element. And inside this, I'm going to have ourselves a division, which is going to return this like this. Okay. So instead of this, right? So CN function is coming from your ShadCN library itself. So you don't have to worry about it. We created a division and we have this style where we are going to display. See, these are the state displays. These are the things that we selected. Okay, and if you scroll down, you can see all the selected seats, it's been displayed. And then I think we need to minimum height, it's going to be 64, and then maximum height is also going to be 64, not more, not beyond that. Otherwise maximum height, we can increase the maximum height. And what is this, 75 percentage? Yep, now it has been fine. Okay, that's the maximum height. And now you can see, now if I remove this, you can see that it's showing only the available selected seats. It is booked. See, you can see the status over here, right? So if you hold your alt key or multiple key, you can see it's going to give you the information about the multiple seats which we selected, which is working how it's wanted to be. The main logic is entirely stuffed behind this use effect hook, which is, that is what we are thinking. The mistake what we made, it is we have already selected the element, but we try to access the one more element which is inside that element. So basically in the previous example which I created, I had a group. Inside that group, I had that element. But here we don't have a group for each and every element. It is a separate element itself. But this entire thing is a group. But here, the mistake I made, I assumed this element is itself a group. Then in that group, I'm going to access the element. No. In this case, this is a single element without any group. So we don't need to access it again. So we are directly accessing the element itself. Then we are making the type of that element as the SVG element. Then we are adding these styles to that element. That's the mistake previously I made, which our code is working exactly as it's supposed to be. And this is all about the booking system. This is how it looks. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And this is just the concept. And in our real case, we're going to build a real super project based on this logic, and we are going to come up with the projects. And if you need this source code, or if you need this complete concept source code, you can access that source code in the link in the description below. It's free, which is available in our GitHub. You can use this logics to implement for your own website. But sooner or later, we're going to come up with the new project, which is a full stack project. Either it's going to be a dining management system, or it's going to be an online ticket booking systems for your bus or cinema tickets, something like that. Okay, or we're going to upload the two different projects as well as. So stay tuned for more projects, and if you have any questions or anything related to this, drop your questions in the comment sections, or we are happy to help you out. All right, so happy coding, and I will see you all in the next video then.